Hello and very warm welcome to all of you in this edition of Public Forum. I'm Anurag Punetha with you. Mr. Sreeram Chaulia, he's the Dean of International School of Jindal. Was supposed to join us as a guest, but he got stuck in the rain and traffic snarl. Very warm welcome to the show, Mr. Chaulia. What do you have to say about India's invite to Mr. Donald J. Trump to come for the Republic Day celebration?
Well, I think we need to mend fences and to restart in many ways after a series of tensions have erupted over trade and also, visas being denied to our skilled professionals and some kind of a drift in the overall strategic relationship that had built progressively for the last nearly 15 years. I think we have hit a low point. So I think personal diplomacy and bringing Trump over is not a bad idea because, as we have seen, he is amenable to, charm offensives, and he does respond when countries host him lavishly and show him great honor. Although the fundamentals, I must say, are shaky, and therefore I think we must make a greater effort in trying to maintain this relationship at the peak that it used to be. So I think it's timely and it's a smart move. I don't think he is going to create the same kind of ruckus he has done with the Europeans in India or with the Chinese, because those he sees as direct economic competitors and major rivals who are seen to be hampering American workers and their rights, which is the typical populist lens through which he looks at it. But I don't think India is seen as that big an offender in Trump's worldview. So I think we can carry it off. And if you remember, Prime Minister Modi's visit was also relatively successful last year. I think we can take it forward from there and try to maintain the strategic relationship and iron out all the creases that have emerged lately due to Trump's, populist policy making.
So seeing the kind of the reverses that India faced, I mean India and US relation faced in recent times, so this invite is also a kind of a test for India's relation with Trump, do you think?
Oh, definitely. You see, between now and Republic Day, there's plenty of, time. We have to plan it well. I think the 2+2 dialogue that had been postponed needs to happen soon, because that is going to be...
But Mr. Pompeo chose to go to to North Korea over India about this 2+2 dialogue.
Yeah, that's the thing. You see, that's where Trump's strategic incoherence and lack of appreciation for India's strategic importance comes out. So I think we will need to work it through. I mean, you see, the relationship is huge. One man cannot destroy it through his whims. I mean, we're talking about more than $100 billion in trade. We're talking about a series of military and defense, initiatives for production as well as for geostrategic power projection, for maintaining strategic balance in Asia. So Trump, of course, does not appreciate most of these grand strategic ideas. I mean, his vision is much narrower. So we will need to really work with him and try to manage this, and to prevent any further damage from happening. So I think that is part of the intention. I don't see any kind of like a high point being reached anytime soon, as long as this president is in the White House, because he's an angry and a cynical person about globalization and about multilateral cooperation. But bilaterals, one-on-one, where there is some give and take and where he sees that especially the US is benefiting economically, he can see value in India. And I think to that extent we should try and maintain this relationship and not lose it completely.
Mr. Chaulia, one more question about this whole issue of sanctions or secondary sanctions by let's say Trump administration to India or let's say other countries. If any countries start dealing with Iran, is mere facade, and ultimately is or invariably US is telling to India or let's say other countries to start trade deal either in defense or in oil to the US. Either you buy oil from US or let's say to have a better defense ties with the US.
Well, I don't think the United States can be a substitute for Iran, because geographically speaking, American oil, even though they are pumping it out and are exporting it, cannot come as far as India is. I mean, in terms of the transportation costs, it will not be viable. And there are no pipelines all the way from the Atlantic up to the Indian Ocean per se. So the tankers. So I think, we do buy from Venezuela, and the U.S. is, of course, in the Western Hemisphere, and they could want to fill in. But I don't think the commercial motive is the main issue here. You know, they have decided to side with Saudi Arabia and to try and politically destroy Iran. You know, and that has been unfortunately their stance, and they have also sided closely with Israel. And the Israeli viewpoint is that Iran is a mortal threat. And so that's the whole logic behind this attempted isolation of Iran. But I think you see, if you go back to the pre-JCPO era, before Obama struck the nuclear deal with Iran, even then there were, there was pressure from Washington trying to force all the buyers, including India, Japan, China, South Korea, all of us from desisting, and we reduced our intake to some extent and therefore got the waivers. Trump is sounding more belligerent and more aggressive than Obama by saying, nobody will get any waivers and you just have to stop. But I think that will have a backlash because, as Ambassador Surendra Kumar was saying, it will mean that they are forfeiting major capital with allies as well as important strategic partners. I mean, Trump has said something like, we can consider dropping the trade war with China if the Chinese comply fully with us on tightening the noose on North Korea. So he's looking at these kind of linkages, and we should play to that. I mean, if Trump is really, really bothered about China, and I think that is the #1 threat he sees because it can overtake the United States in strategic industrial production and in key areas, then we should keep on hammering home the point that we are not the China, we are the antithesis of China. And that is one smart way to try and get some concessions from this man who believes in purely transactional
terms and transactional
rather than transformative and visionary relationships.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chaulia, for talking to us. That's all we have in this edition of Public Forum. Thank you very much for watching us.